Ten Mahabodhis is a book that where you can get the book on the 10 Mahabodhis by David R. Kinsley. David R. Kinsley. It's on the 10 Mahabodhis. The 10 Mahabodhis are different aspects of the goddess. In this particular case, because we're talking about the Indian mythology, it's different aspects of the goddess Kali. And what happens is that Shiva has to go in and he makes love to each one of these 10 Mahabodhis. And one way he's making love to 10 aspects of the goddess. You know, the 10 aspects of the goddess in this 10 Mahabodhis. And after the 10 Mahabodhis, I'm quite sure it culminates into the goddess Parvati, who is the goddess Shakti, which means mountaintop, which means he's at the highest level that he can go when it comes to love or sex. And so as a result, he basically is on this particular level that he's at the mountaintop, he's at the peak, he's at the pinnacle, and at the meridian point, the apex of the height of love. In my own situation, I did that. It ended up being 12 different energies. All of those very special. But between the first one, which was the passionate aspect of the love affair, and what's going into what will finally be the 13th aspect, which will be which is a key number, 12 signs of the zodiac. So I don't know whether it was 12 or 10. I know it's 10 in the mythologies. Between the first one and the 13th one is he experiences all aspects of the goddess. And all aspects of the goddess. And as a result, when he's ready for number 13, he finds out that number 13 is the culmination of all the other ones. So all the other ones are in the number 13, in the 13th one. So this is almost like graduation point. Graduation point. I say that to say that to learn a little more about the goddess energy and the love as well as the sexual aspect, you need to get that book, David R. Kinsley's book, The Secret Goddess. Now, the 10 Mahabodhis is the name of that book. Next, we're going to get into this particular book, Sex Magic, Tantra, and Tarot, by Christopher Hyde, Ph.D., and Lon Milo Duquette. And Lon Milo Duquette. And in this book, it's called Sex, Magic, Tantra, and Tarot, The Way of the Secret Lover. And I've been quoting this in my lectures for about 3-4 years now, but I want to put this and enter this in this whole thing of the love aspect of my complete love of tape on love. Each of us has a secret lover, a lover who awaits just behind the erotic images and that flood our minds during sexual arousal and in sleep. A dream lover who disguises as an individual with whom we all fall in love. An ideal lover who has adored us since the beginning of our individual existence, and who will never abandon us until the instant we merge into the absolute Godhead. And I realize something that's going on right now at this particular time. I think it's some forces around us that don't want this thing to happen, because I think we hit upon the key. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we've been battling with this tape the whole time. Now, what's interesting now is I realize
all right. Go ahead, bro.
there's all kind of things. We've been going through hell just to put this presentation together. Which was interesting here is early I bit my fucking tongue eating real good. And I'm like, well, why did this happen right before a major presentation? And I'm like, wait a minute, there's some forces that's going on. So I'm a little tie-tongue with the presentation. It's the first time I have had trouble speaking. So I know that we have hit upon something that is very important, enough that the last vestiges of the forces that want to keep us down understand that this is the last frontier and they don't want us to deal with this. But we're going to go ahead with it anyway. We immediately feel the embrace of our secret lover in ecstasy of orgasm and in the moments of rapture when the beauty of music, dance, or the vital art or nature overcomes us. Visual art and nature overcomes us. Whatever we experience, or whenever we experience a broken heart, it is often because other individuals has not lived up to the perfection of our secret lover. The reason the sexual experiences are often better in our imagination or in memory than in actuality is because it is the imagination of the secret lover. It is in the imagination of the secret lover which is nearest to us. Personal relationships will always be somewhat disappointing to us. And in truth, there can never be a relationship that matches our own when matches the one we already have with our secret lover. It is the standard in which everything is measured. The irony is most of us are not aware of our relationship with our secret lover. Surrender to the secret lover is the actual theme of most religions, and yet the doctrines and the practices of the world's so-called religions tend to dilute or deflect or detour the individual from the genuine personal experience. Moreover, religious establishments have unceasingly strived to conceive their congregations, and that the most private of all religious events is not a personal experience at all, but an ambiguous, incomprehensible occurrence to be publicly affirmed and validated by the priestcraft. They in turn allow you to practice or participate with them to promote the sacred marriage. So in so many words, they're saying that the priests or the religions are striving for something when they're talking about your personal relationship with Christ. That personal relationship that they're talking about is nothing but the personal relationship with your soul or the heart chakra. And that's what that is talking about. Going back into this particular science, we're still talking about the soul, the heart chakra, and the inner self that has been diluted or deflated been misconstrued to think it's the actual other person. But the secret lover that we're talking about is your heart chakra and your own personal spiritual aspect of your own soul. Because ultimately this love that we're talking about is your own soul. Now, all right, we are back. In one of the Shiva mythologies, because Isis, Osiris, Shiva, we're still talking about the same duality of male and female in the interaction of love. And so we got this ancient mythology that can explain all of this. The Pravati, which is the aspect of Isis or even Mayat in East India, they talk about a dice game that both Shiva and Pravati engage in. And as a result, Pravati wins the dice game. And I'll try to explain what this is about. In this particular book called coming from Oxford University, The God Inside Out, Shiva's Game of Dice, by Don Handelman and David Schulman. Don Handelman and David Schulman. In this particular book, it says this book offers a new explanation of mythology of the Hindu god Shiva, who spends time playing dice with his wife, whom he habitually loses. The result of this game is our world, which turns the god inside out and changes his initial or his eternal, composition. And it goes on to say how he is so much engaged in this game that he eventually loses perpetually. Now, why is that? He loses perpetually because he can never truly, being a male, win out over woman. Because when he fights with woman, he's fighting with his own internal self. Being that the Kundalini energy or the sexual energy inside of us, which is the energy that catapults us up the chakra system, is a feminine energy. So that's why man has to, in his own right, get in touch with his feminine forces or feminine side, and in doing so, he can conquer or synthesize this overwhelming thing that we call love. That we call love. And I guess that's the reason why I said earlier that women are smarter than men, that they are trained on this love thing from a child, and it is a lot easier for them to accept it or even recognize it at first when it first hits and don't fight against it. And so I think that's what this thing of Shiva, you losing the dice game, is that ultimately she's always going to be one step ahead. But then again, on the other hand, that is great because she is the initiator of these particular mysteries. If man initiates, they say a lot of time, matters of the mind and knowledge, woman initiates matters of the soul. And that's the difference in a nutshell. But Pravati, which is the Shakti power that is inside of the vital essence of us as sexual beings, it goes to say, and I'll quote, that Pravati, her energy goes all the way back to the beginning of creation. Now I want to quote this. It's in the book, The Presence of Shiva. And they say that her energy goes all the way back to the beginning of creation. Pravati's energy. And I want to see what this thing is talking about here. Government, okay. It says, am I going to get this right? Trying to see here. Here it is. Let's see if we got this right. Page 349. You all right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, page 349. Well, it's going to work out. It says...
No.
Okay.
Hey, on that.
Hold on. Well, it's working, man. Huh? You got to change it. Now, they're talking about the goddess Pravati of Aset. This is very important, this particular part about Pravati. They're saying that her very soul, the soul of this beautiful woman, which has a lot to do with black women in general. It goes to say in the book The Presence of Shiva that Pravati, her soul goes all the way back to the time before creation, before the great fall. Before the great fall. We good on the sound? Before the great sound fall. Which means if we as black people, man and woman, black man and black woman, tap into our true essence of our souls, then our souls would end up being a primordial energy that existed before creation. Now try to understand this, and I'll try to set up what's going on with the white man and the civilization on what they know. A soul is a sun. When we fall in love, it is the expression or the energy of the soul that we are experiencing. It's the awakening of the soul. And the love is the result of the awakening of the soul, either for a small glimpse in time or a major glimpse. But when our souls wake up, unlike other races, because we are the original people, that means that very well there could be a few human beings or two human beings that can possess aspect. There is a black woman in America that has a pussy that was in existence before the creation of time. You see. And a black man that has a dick that was in existence before the creation of time. And it is the government to make sure that even if you come together economically, socially, you see what I'm saying? You will be at odds and you will be in such a struggle. You see what I'm saying? That you will never be able to tap into that higher self. Or, if you got too much money, that's still a distraction. Because you will be forever, number one, trying to keep it, or number one, trying to see what you can buy, or number one, thinking that in actuality you're bored because you have missed the point that you had it all before the money, and the money can never bring you things. So it's always some kind of confusion that's actually going, this actually going down. You see, even to the point we get this particular book by Crawley called Atlantis, one of the few books that they don't print. And ironically, they print a lot of his stuff, but they don't print this particular book. It's a small book. It would be cheaper to produce, but they don't print it for the mere fact that he said that the word Atlantis means the black woman on the second page of the book. You see, which means that if we are the ones to love, we will tap into our primordial selves. And by doing that, we can change this shit. You see, we can change this thing. I'll give you some clarity on that in a minute. And that has something to do with Krishna and Radha. Now, Krishna goes with Radha. Radha is a married woman. Well, first of all, someone said, well, man, what kind of religion is that? That the fundamental hero or the Christ figure in the religion will be going with a married woman. First of all, they're not talking about moralism. Number two, because moralism is political and has nothing to do with spiritual. Number two things is happening. Number one, Krishna is a god, so he is not on the level of moralism. He is the Godhead. Number two, Radha is trapped in a marriage that is a social marriage that can function based on the laws and the governments of man, but it's not a spiritual marriage, so it can ultimately never go anywhere, but just on the social level. Krishna comes in and frees her. But how is this done? How is it done? This is another book you can get called David R. Kinsley's book, The Sword and the Flute, by David R. Kinsley. Well, number one, this love has a lot to do because by her being married, they don't have a lot of time together. They know that the time that they have to spend together is not spread out, it's intense. You know, it's intense. So they don't have a lot of time to be wasting when it comes to this love that they have, where they have distractions because they're just this regular couple. You see what I'm saying? It's got a whole lot of time on their hand. When they come together, it's extremely intense. And it's intense because they know that time is the factor. She cannot be with him the whole time. So by it being so intense, they go into a realm of bliss. And by going into a realm of bliss, they create something outside of the ordinary love, which is this alternative dimension that even in the text, some of the people or the whole society that surrounds them shares in this bliss, in this enchanted world that they have built, which is the hereafter. See, same story on how this thing is done. So they know, the government again knows, that if we get a certain amount of black people to really tap into this primordial essence called love, the true love, not the one that society says, one that is beyond money, material things, and beyond life itself. If they can get one to tap into that love, then it will create an entire society and a dimension around those two lovers that the entire community, in this particular case, the primordial beings, the original people, will benefit from by destroying the matrix. And this is what Krishna and Radha does in the text. At first she sneaks off at night into the enchanted forest to be with him. Then it gets to the point where, and then not only that, when she cannot be with him, she sets up this longing for him that generates more energy. So sometimes longing is great, you see, because it generates more energy. So when they come together again, the energy is even stronger than when they were before. And each time they are building sections into this new world of the bringing in this energy into this new world. So it's almost like having this corrupt, illusionary fallen world. And these two souls come together, which represent, if this world is a globe and we're on the inside of the globe, or a balloon, and it's a fallen balloon, a globe, and these two souls would represent two pinpoints or needles in the balloon. And although the balloon is tough enough not to burst, each time they come together, the hole gets bigger and bigger, and light comes in and shines into the troubled world. That later on, the troubled world, when the hole gets big enough, it explodes. And they are into a whole new realm. This is what we're talking about here today. More than just male and female relationships. We're talking about the metaphysics of this shit transforming our people. You see what I'm saying? This is what we're talking about here. And that's what happens with the Krishna and Radha story. Get the book, like I said, The Sword and the Flute by David R. Kingsley, which goes to the lingam and the yoni. The lingam and the yoni. The lingam is the penis, and the yoni is the vagina. Now, you will see pictures in ancient symbology. Now draw this. Of a snake biting its tail. This is called the Uros of the great round of the first day. This means that one is the beginning and one is the end, the completion. So in the beginning there's the yoni, but then again in the beginning there's the penis, because it pierces the darkness. Either way, it sets up this great round. Now, the concept here is that both Krishna and Radha, or the earlier myth Shiva and Shakti, or Shiva and Parvati, is that the lingam of Shiva, which is the penis, and the yoni of Parvati or Shakti, which is the vagina, is two separate ends of the complete universe. And when they meet, they can change what structure in the universe that's gone astray. Here goes again why we can never meet. And when we do, it can't be a certain amount of energy. We can meet sexually, but if anybody's ever been in love, the alchemical things that go on when you have making love, when you're in love, is a whole nother realm than when you're not. It's a whole nother realm. You know what I'm saying? So, this is the Uros, the snake biting its tail. And that's why you would see the penis and the vagina all over India. And the penis all over Kemet. All over Kemet, but the penis will always be in front of a temple. The temple is the woman. The obelisk. You see. So they already know that the ancients gave us the secret to all of this through not only just sex, but through the male and female principles of Isis and Osiris, Shiva and Parvati, Solomon and Sheba, and on, that the sex and the love thing is the mystery to breaking this shit. You see what I'm saying? To breaking this. It's very key on how this particular thing goes. Shakti, the Kundalini feminine power, which is very interesting here, because the Kundalini energy is both in male and female, is the feminine power. So, one way to keep us down, even in the conscious community, which I'm so glad that all of your religions and cult leaders and shit have passed now, whereas they would tell you that one would be superior over the other. Male would be superior over the female. What they don't want you to know is the great mystery of the sexual energy that is inside of us, which is the Kundalini energy, is a feminine energy. So one mystery of breaking this down, going into this, is to understand that you are nothing but two of the same halves, twin souls meeting. And there's no such thing as you being inferior than the other when you both were way before the physical aspect. But ultimately, it's one energy, which is the feminine energy. So in so many words, the black man is the only one who has the complete aspect of the Kundalini energy in him that works totally from the sacral vertebrae, the root chakra, all the way up to the pineal gland. He is the only person, like his woman, that has the complete aspect that he's both male and female, just like his woman is both male and female. That's why Horus is called the double-wanded one, which means both male and female. You know, entity that rose up Labrador, I've been talking about for years. A lot of motifs on this great dragon is male. A lot of the motifs on the great dragon is female. But ultimately, it's this feminine energy. This feminine energy. Now, Shiva in the mythology burns up karma. Not karma, but karma. Karma is sexual desire. It's desire for that particular human being, period. But karma, like anything down here, can wax and wane. It goes with one of the questions we were just talking about. It can wax and wane, ebb and flow. If you don't preserve it, or if you don't deal with the science of preserving this karma, it will burn up. And so Shiva, in one of his aspects, burns up karma, which is desire, which is eros, which is also love. But then Pravati restores it back on down the line. So in so many words, when I was talking about how my experience was, I went through a certain love that opened up my heart chakra, and I experienced my soul. Then the energy burned up. It burned up in a couple of minutes. I sat in the chair one day, and it burned up. And now the energy is back, restored the desire, the love, and all of that. But it had to burn up at first so I can go through several aspects of the goddess to come back in the complete aspect of the goddess. I went through 12 Mahabodhiyas to get all of those Mahabodhiyas in one of the 13th goddesses, which will be one that will be eternal. So this is the way energy goes. So going back to relationships, we must also know that too much of anything could also mean that in actuality you might deplete it. And so you must play games with this in the particular aspect of, like I said, don't stay in the same room all the time for those particular ones that's married. Or preserve it. There's several ways you can do this. There's several ways you can also do this. And but just keep in mind that sometimes when it burns up, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're out of love. It just means that it's taken another position. It's gone to another level, or it's gone dormant for a while. But according to the mythology, it can be restored, either through another person or through the same person. Depends on whether that person was supposed to be a person that you were supposed to learn something from and then move on, or was it supposed to be a person that you're supposed to just go through a period of cooling out. As a matter of fact, one of the books that deal with this is this book, Shiva the Erotic Ascetic, by Wendy O'Flaherty. O''Flaherty. Wendy O'Flaherty. Shiva, the erotic ascetic. And in this particular book, they talk about the burning of the karma. They talk about all the Pravati, the mountaintop. They also talk about how Pravati and Shiva get in these arguments. And they get in a knockdown, drag-out fight. And then they get into reconciliation. And they were saying that these fights are good sometimes because it keeps the karma from burning up. So this is the way they separate sometimes. To preserve that love, sometimes you got to break away. And all, you see what I'm saying? So sometimes some of our people don't know that sometimes when they get into these particular spats, it's not that the love is gone. It's just that this thing has to happen for that love to exist. Well, you say, well, how about people who stay together all the time? Those people are not necessarily functioning on the highest level because they become dead. They become like drone, dead zombies. You see what I'm saying? But to preserve the true love, sometimes it takes separation. You see what I'm saying? Separation. To preserve the true love. And this is how this thing goes. You know. Now, even orgasm is an expression of the soul. When you have an orgasm based on Thomas More's book, The Soul of Sex. An orgasm is a land shared between two goddesses, mother and daughter, Demeter and Persephone. When they done the aspect of the when they trace this thing back, or where they get these terminologies, at least in the Greek terminology. The good part about this is, what this means here is, whenever you have an orgasm, for that split second, you are feeling something that is in a world that is beyond your own, that is a normal feeling in that particular world. But you only get a glimpse of it, because we are now entrapped in slavery. So an orgasm is this solar phallic energy. It's the sun. It's the soul. And it's almost like a trapdoor flings open, the light of the soul shines in and it shuts. But when this thing flings open again, and the whole world has an orgasm, and it stays open, it will destroy this world. Can you imagine, for that split second you have the orgasm, if the orgasm came on and never went away, you would actually die. So it's the same aspect of what happens here with the world. We're getting into the essence of how this whole coming together of the male and female works. So when you have that orgasm, for that split second or whatever it is, you are feeling something of the realm that you fell from and became encased in the actual physical. Where is that realm you came from? That realm is your soul. So the whole concept of Jesus saves, the Christ, if you take it away from the physical debauchery of a man that the Romans give you, the Christ is nothing but your soul. Your soul saves, not your soul. Jesus saved your soul. The Christ element means when your soul attained the level of Christ, it is saved. Because it is broken outside of the matrix that entraps it in physical bondage. So the soul itself is the Savior. Because the soul is the Christ. Christos, Chrysalis, Pegasus, Horus, Perseus. The soul is the Christ. So whenever you have an orgasm, you are feeling the soul. Trapdoor opens for a split second and closes back. About like what love is. Love is a lot longer than a couple of seconds, but still yet it's a doorway in time when you glimpse the divine. And it's constantly burning out unless you surrender self and you can keep this thing forever. It can be eternal. You can be eternal. So that's what an orgasm is, moving right along. Sekhmet, the goddess Sekhmet, in Kemet, her land is called Sekhet Aru, which means fields of blood or the paradise. So paradise in Kemet is called Sekhet Aru, which is the realm of Sekhmet. But Sekhmet is also the original Kundalini goddess, Shakti. Is Shakti in India is Sekhmet or Sekhet in Kemet, which is the original Kundalini goddess, but her realm is what the Egyptians or Canaanites called the hereafter. So here goes again, that this sexual energy that we long for, and empires have been rose and destroyed off of this sex. Sex is the number one shit on the planet, some way or other, one way or another. You see what I'm saying? And if you don't think so, you got some work to do. But that sexual energy, again, is called Sekhet Aru, which means the hereafter. So when we experience that orgasm again, or the whole act of sex, and that desire and that lust, all of that is nothing but glimpses of the other side, you see what I'm saying, that we have to conjure up in love making and different aspects to get to that particular side, to have glimpses of it. But in India, the Shakti power, they say there will be the return of Shakti. So wait a minute, one man it's a Kundalini energy, it's a sexual energy, but it's also the realm that the Hindus say that they'll ultimately end up in. Well, in Kemet, it's a Kundalini energy, a sexual energy called the Sekhet Aru, but yet it is where the Egyptians say they'll end up in. Then you can understand why they have to shut down the production of the black man and the black woman, both sexually, if they wanted to, or solely by not producing a certain amount of love, because there has to be a certain amount of love to obtain a certain degree of another kind of orgasm. There's the regular function of orgasm in Kundalini, and then there's Kundalini that's alchemically raised through love. And that one is the one that transforms you. You see, that's the one that transforms you. Including, we come to this particular portion, is this. You got Isis and Osiris. You have Metatron, Metronet. You have Ishtar, and Anana has this, I can't think of the person. Ishtar and Tammuz. You have you have Parvati and Shiva, Krishna, Radha, Jason, Medea, Dionysus, Ariadne. The list goes on and on and on of this primordial pair that's talking about the same two, Isis, Osiris, Aset, Osar. Now, in the myth of Solomon and Sheba, Queen of Sheba, which they say is from Ethiopia, so it automatically tells you it's the black woman. The Queen of Sheba, she gives him a riddle. It's recorded in this book, The Black Goddess and the Unseen Real, Unseen Real, and I think it might be even in another book that you might, because this one here costs $80 by Peter Redgrove. Peter Redgrove, but there might be another one. Let's see. There might be another one. And then I want to give you a cheaper book that you can get. Let's see, a cheaper book you can probably get. 45. let's see, notes, let's see, I'm trying to get this right. Extrasensory perception, let's see. 45. Raphael Patch's book. So it's probably, I don't know which one that is. Let's try to find out. He has one called Hebrew Goddess, and it might be in Hebrew Goddess. But it might be in the woman Barbara Black. Yeah, Hebrew Goddess. It's going to be in Hebrew Goddess, Raphael Patty. And it talks about here that Sheba, the queen of Sheba, gives Solomon. Now remember, Sheba and Solomon is not but Isis and Osiris. There's never no historical people with this shit. The queen of Sheba gives Solomon a riddle, and it almost knocks him off his throne, because he's supposed to be the wisest man, and he can't figure this shit out. He's the wisest man, not the wisest woman. And it says that she poses a different riddle to Solomon, these riddles to Solomon, some of which he was able to answer, some of which he was unable to answer. One of those was so outrageous that he fell off his throne. So he actually fell off his throne. The question was, what is the color of God? Another was, what is water that is neither in the air, nor in the river, nor in the ocean, nor in rain? The answer was supposed to be the sweat of a horse's mane. But it is a double riddle. For it is the woman's love or wetness between her thighs of the queen Sheba. You see, with her animal pubic hair. Unbelievable. I don't want to read that shit again, because that motherfucker was erotic too.
Yeah, that shit was right.
Woo!
That was good.
The riddle she gave him, what is the color of God? It was one of them. Obviously, we know what that is.
Yeah.
The other one, what is, because they didn't answer it in this book, so obviously, you know how that goes. Another was, what is water that is neither in the air, nor in the river, nor in the ocean, nor in the rain? The answer was supposed to be the sweat of a horse's mane, but it is a double riddle, because he probably got the sweat of the horse's mane being the wisest man, but by him being a man, we don't think sometimes when it comes to the woman aspect, because that's one of those riddles where she's a lesser repertoire because we've been trained that way. And obviously, it was one that he didn't get because he fell off the throne. It was a double riddle for woman's love, or the wetness between the thighs of the queen of Sheba with her animal pubic hair. You see, and it says now this is and this is one, he says this. Now, let me show you how spiritual this shit is. Let me show you how to have given, okay. Let me show you how spiritual this is. The week before last, or last week, no, week before last, I woke up and the Spirit gave me the riddle to the question that's been asked by Isis for years. She said, I am Aset Isis, and no one has seen my veil. And I'm like, what the fuck is... I've been trying to get this riddle for 13 years. I'm quite sure it's a multiple riddle, but they gave me the ultimate answer. The Spirit said the veil is the pubic hair. Isis is the vagina. To lift the veil of Isis is to shave the pubic hair, which it says here. Now, the Spirit gave me this 2 weeks ago. Should I call my woman up? She got to shave in a few minutes. I said, you didn't have to, goddammit, but she did it anyway, because we're going through the mythology. Because that was the riddle that was broken, and the Spirit gave it to me. Well, it's interesting here, because I'm reading this for the first time tonight, and I've been reading this before, but I never read further enough to get the riddle, to get this part, because I had to figure it out later on, and it says, the Queen of Sheba, because it says that the Queen of Sheba with her animal pubic hair, and it says the patriarchal, that light is, I can barely see it now. Now I'm good to go. The patriarchal recensions say that Solomon pursued her to shave. He said, however, to give her a child, but in so many words. He pursued her to save the hair. The Spirit told me 2 questions. One, what is the veil of Isis, or Aset? The veil is the pubic hair, and when you shave it, Aset comes through shining. You have lifted her veil. The other, and there's a reason why. The other one is, why do you shave it? Well, you shave it to open the mouth of Osiris. Well, how does, in the opening of the mouth of Osiris has to open up his mouth so he can live again because he's been wounded. And so she opens his mouth in the opening of the mouth ceremony, and he's revived through the opening of the mouth. So you shave the hair to open the mouth through Osiris. Then what is the opening of the mouth of Osiris? The opening of the mouth of Osiris is whenever he goes down on her and licks on her clit and puts his mouth on her vagina, the fluids come down, which is the same sweat between the legs of Shiva, which is Isis, which is collars, which we get ready to get into, which is these vital fluids that revives Osiris. So the opening of the mouth ceremony, you got to open up your mouth to eat that pussy.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
You get it?
Oh, yeah.
So what does this mean? The opening of the mouth ceremony is, he's about to die. The veil is lifted. Because the best way to eat some pussy is to get rid of the hair, which is one that the black woman got to understand. Because we don't analyze things. This is one that the white woman figured out. It's because their hair grows like a fur. So they got to shave the shit. Ours is closer to the vagina, but the black woman still hadn't figured this shit out. That the most sensuous and sensual aspect of kunneling, the sacred art of eating pussy, which comes from ancient Africa, is when you shave the pussy, it sits right there up in your face, and you can eat it with no interruptions or hair getting in the way of the clitoris and all of those types of things. You see. And it's more effective. More effective. Now one sister like, and so the opening of the mouth ceremony is whenever you eat I'm going to get into that part too, But whenever you eat this thing, the collars, gunners, russels, tammers, ojas, shaktis, and collars, which is these vital sexual fluids of alchemical origin, and these cure-all, medicinal, alchemical stones, elixirs, come down in the vaginal fluid, and if you swallow them, you can regenerate your soul and your spirits and your body. This is all in alchemy. Get Serpent Power, Arthur Avalon. Or you can get the Black God, this book, The Black Goddess and the Unseen Real by Peter Redgrove, which costs you about $80 on the internet now. On the internet now. And stuff like that. Which is taken from 9 larger books of Kenneth Grant's that talks about these collars. But this one here, he's encapsulated all of it in this one book. The key here is, one of the mysteries of lifting the veil is when you shave the hair, it's a free ride, and not only that, it's a lot more effective. Now, let me give you an example. One sister with the shaven hair say, man, you are good. You are excellent. The other sister, I begged her, you got too much hair. It's like licking a goddamn afro. She had enough goddamn hair to knit 3 fucking goddamn blankets. Or to make 4 fur coats.
Ooh, boy.
So, it's like damn licking the top of a motherfucking Angela Davis head. So she gonna say, yeah, well, you know, you ain't that good at eating pussy. I'm like, no, I ain't that good at eating hair. The first thing happened is I had to take my hand and part the hair, and after a while my hand started getting distracted because it started getting a little irritated because my hand, not on the vagina, but just the hand. If you take a hand and lay it on your hand long enough, it will get irritated. But I'm doing this stuff and I'm trying to part the hair, but I begged her the whole goddamn summer to shave her shit. So I'm trying to part the damn hair, and it's getting awkward, and it got in the way of the process. Because this motherfucker here, you see what I'm saying, looking like Grizzly Adams between her goddamn legs. You know what I'm saying?
Shit.
You can braid her shit. She had enough hair, if you cut it off, you could have weeds for days. The weeds for days. The fucking Asians would love her black ass. They get paid. Plus, and it's interesting because when you study sex, and one of the good, and they tell you in the Tantra books, one of the excellent ways to also study the process of sex is watch porno. Because there's certain things that have to go on for the porno to be effective in the process of that. You see a lot in porno. And the black woman ain't figured it out yet. That the best effect is to shave your shit. Now you don't have to use a razor. You can use clippers and get it down low enough that it doesn't bump you up or whatever, but it can also get it down low enough that the man can do his fucking job.
Increase the sensation. Right?
Exactly. And also, the hair is one of the things that contributes to the smell. And they ain't figured the goddamn shit out yet. If you shave the shit, you see what I'm saying? Ain't nothing gets trapped. The moisture don't get trapped like it did. And so therefore, the smell, you see what I'm saying, as well. As a matter of fact, one of the sisters that was completely shaven had absolutely no smell at all. None. You see. So my point is it can decrease the smell. You see what I'm saying? But there is there's an esoteric thing on the realm of smell also too. But that's one of the things. But you don't have to shave. Well, a lot of sisters say, you know, I don't like when it grow back. No, you can take clippers. And you can do this science. You like but scissors? No, the little hair clippers. You know the ones that they got to trim the beards?
Right. I know what you mean. Yeah, you don't have to go down on it. You just
no, you can just do it and stuff until you get it down to a certain point. These are the things we got to teach the people. Oh, who the hell you think is supposed to do it but the man? That's a part of the ritual. He has to lift the veil.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I've done it with the clippers and the actual razor.
Okay.
That's a part of the ritual. You are plowing away the forest to get to the jewels.
Right.
Now the jewel is in the remote forest. The jewel is the clitoris. And you are plowing away the forest to get to the jewel.